Welcome back, folks. Today we are going to break down matchmaking and booking from an MMA perspective. Now, before we go too far into it, there's that thumbnail was a little bit clickbaity. I understand. This isn't an attack on other channels that say every fight to make after X event, whatever event that is. That's not an attack on them. People do that, and they do a great thing for the space. Channels like the MMA Guru, that's obviously the one I used in the thumbnail. He brings a lot of eyes to the sport. He's got a big fan base, but a lot of people, they see his content and they say, okay, cool, I'm interested in MMA, and oh, now I'm interested in this YouTube MMA kind of thing. And then what happens is they find other channels that go into a little more depth. MMA Guru, very good at getting eyes on the sport, very good for that. A lot of people see his fight breakdowns and fight predictions. Oh, this fighter's going to win because of this, and it's real surface level, and that's okay. Because that's not, his content isn't made to be a detailed analysis of every fight. His content is making picks, having fun stuff, dropping news, bringing eyes to it, and that's great. That's why he has so many viewers, so many subscribers, and that's awesome. And then that's a gateway for people to find other channels like mine, like some of the other great people on YouTube here. So this isn't an attack on him, and it's definitely not an attack on my boy Artem. Love Artem, one of my favorite people in the space. I will defend Artem until the day that he stops doing YouTube. That guy's fantastic. So yeah, not an attack on those guys. But I point this out because I want to explain booking, and maybe, who knows, maybe they'll see this video. I know Artem probably will. And they'll see, oh, you know what? 138 MMA makes a few points. So without wasting more time, we have fighter A, B, C, and D, all of which are in the same weight class. These are their last 5 fights. The furthest left is their most recent fight. So here we go. We have these. I'm going to match them up, and I want you to help me match them up in the comments below. Put down who you think should face who based on their last 5 fights, all that good stuff, and you can kind of determine a lot based on their last 5 fights. For the sake of this video, we are going to assume that these last 5 fights are with the current promotion, all right? Just for the sake of this video, there is something to be said that, say fighter B, for example, this is their first fight in our promotion, and these were all in a lower ranked promotion or whatever. That can change things a little bit, but for the sake of this video, we're gonna at least the last 3, but we're gonna say the last 5 fights are all from our promotion, just for the sake of simplicity. But anyway, we're gonna break this down. We're gonna match these guys up. Now, fighter A, fighter B, fighter C, fighter D. Fighter A is coming off of a couple of wins. He's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Very important there. Fighter B, 4-win streak up until the last one. Last fight coming off of a loss. So that suggests a pretty big step up in competition or a poor performance on that night. Probably a step up in competition. Okay, so what do we do with that? We'll get to that in a second. Fighter C, couple of losses, 2-3 in the last 5 fights. Not looking the best right now, but maybe at one point was. But 2-3 in the last 5. That's not what you want to see. Fighter D, 3-2 in the last 5, coming off of a win though. That win, gets them back on track after 2 losses. That's what this fighter's looking to do. Come off of that. So let's break down, in the comments, put down who you think matches up with who. While you're down there, hit the like button. I appreciate that. Put it down in the comments, or at least jot it down on a piece of paper so you can say, oh, this is where I would have went with this matchup based on these last 5 fights. Okay, and then I'm going to explain why I see these fights going or matching up the way that makes sense to me. Because in a division, you want the number of fighters coming off of a loss to be as few as possible. Now that's impossible, right? But you can't have nobody coming off of a loss, is what I mean. That just doesn't work that way. However, people coming off of losses get cut. They don't get re-signed, whatever. So you should have more people coming off of wins. So what we're going to try to do, we're going to try to keep that number at least the same or greater of coming off of wins. So let's break it down. Did you put yourself in the comments? Did you write down there? All right. For me, I look at this here and I say, okay, fighter B. Fighter B is a fighter who was on a good win streak and now has a loss. Now, we don't throw this fighter out and as, oh, their hype train's derailed, they're trash now, get them out of here. They had 4 wins in a row and they hit a loss. It's a big step up in competition. It's not, a lot of people do this where if you aren't going to win the title in the next year, oh, they're terrible now. They got fraud checked or whatever. That's not the case. You still need mid-card guys. You still need, top 15 to 10s, stuff like that. And you can be top 15 to 10 if you're, 4 wins in a row and you lose to the champion, or 4 wins in a row and you lose to the number 3 ranked guy. That's not necessarily get rid of that fighter. Maybe in the sake of this promotion, our promotion here that we're running, we're going to call it 138 MMA because that's the channel you're on. Good call there. Fighter B in our promotion, maybe we want this fighter to maybe make another run back at the top. Maybe we want to keep them as like a high profile, like, you know, co-main eventer or something like that. So we don't necessarily want to just put this person in there to get slaughtered by another top 5 rank coming off of a win, right? So what do? Okay, we look at that. We say, okay, keep that in mind. We've got a couple of fighters here, 3-2 in their last 5 fights, both of them coming off of a win. That would make sense to match them up. Well, okay, I like that. One of them is going to stay on the winning ways. One of them is not. They're both 3-2, so it's not super detrimental if one of them hits a loss. It's not like, man, we're losing 2 big prospects here. So that's totally fine. What do we do with fighter C? Well, fighter C is coming off of a loss. Fighter C, they've been around the promotion obviously for at least these last 5 fights, as we've specified. Maybe they're an older fighter. Maybe they're just a fighter that didn't quite pan out, but they have had a couple of wins. But how do we match these up? Well, here's what I see. I see 2 fighters coming off of wins and 2 fighters coming off of losses. That right there, to me, is a quick, easy way to match them up. So I would go that route. But, so we're going to go B versus C and A versus D. Now, for me, when I look at this, there's another couple of reasons we want to do this. Fighter A, we've got a good, from what I can see, a good fighter, right? Fighter D, another good fighter. Sure, they had a rough patch here. Maybe that was a similar situation where they were moving up the rankings a little bit too fast, fought some guys at the top. We're going to find out who the better one is and who we need to push and who we maybe settle down at a lower part in the card. Both of them 3-2, like I said. We'll figure it out real quick with this fight right here, and that's going to let us know where they need to be in their next stage of their career. We kind of think that fighter B is going to beat fighter C. We want to get fighter B back on a winning way, right? We want to get them back into a win column, and maybe we're kind of done with fighter C. But if fighter C can beat fighter B, that's where we say, oh, maybe we were wrong about fighter B, and fighter B isn't the prospect we thought, and we're going to use fighter C to figure that out. Gosh, I hate to throw this one out there, but I'm going to do it. Fighter C in this situation is kind of like a Cody Brundage, for example. You kind of expect him to lose a lot of fights, but he wins some, right? He gets some wins in there. Like, he's getting put in there against, like, he's on a 2-fight winning streak in the UFC right now at the time of recording this, and he's kind of been thrown in there as like a big underdog in those fights. But he pulls off wins, and that's kind of how you find out one of those was a DQ. So we're not gonna call that one too crazy, but so that's kind of a guy that you're like, yeah, he could go at any time, but also like still kind of gets wins sometimes. He's a good test to see if somebody's actually up to the quality of our promotion. And then fighter B, you look at somebody like a prospect that's coming in maybe off the Contender Series, something like that. They've got some really impressive wins. They beat another dating fighter in the UFC already, something like that. But then they hit a hiccup when they got in there and fought a high-level guy. Now we're going to decide if they're the real deal or not. So for me, that's how I'd match them up. I like to see fighters coming off of losses, fighting fighters coming off of losses. That's almost more important than anything. Is you don't want a bunch of mixed matches where it's fighter coming off a win and versus fighter coming off of a loss. Because quickly what happens is the fighters coming off of losses start racking up a bunch of them over and over. Yeah, that's still going to happen when it's fighter versus loss versus fighter coming off a loss versus fighter coming off a loss. But if you do win versus loss, like if you did this, there's a good chance that this fighter wins an overwhelming amount of time against this fighter. And what happens is anybody that's coming off of losses starts racking up more and more and more. And then you start having to cut guys really quick and just replenish your roster. This way you can maintain your roster a little bit longer, build up some more established names, and you don't have to just keep cycling through stuff. So that's what I've got. Guys, if you haven't got yourself a t-shirt yet, it's in the description of the video. Order one. There's, at the time of recording, 2 spots left. You enter that 8-person tournament for the lightweight World of Mixed Martial Arts 5 tournament. If your fighter wins, you also win a free copy of the game. World of Mixed Martial Arts 5 is fantastic. You can also order it at the link in the description. Using my link, that helps the channel. I appreciate you guys a ton. I hope you found this informative. If not, well, that sucks. Wasted some time. But see you guys in the breakdown video. It's coming out very soon.